Hi guys, so we're going to actually go over how to fill in the table for an exponential equation. So we have the equation here. It's on the slide 9, and we're asked to make a table. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick random values for x. I like to pick 0, 1, 2, and 3. I keep my values here very simple, but you could pick any values you want here. I like to pick 0, 1, 2, and 3 though, just because it just shows me how my graph is going to start out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug each of those x values into this equation here for x. So I'm going to rewrite it, y equals 3 times 2, and instead of to the x power, I'm going to start with my first one, which is 0. So remember, so now this says 3 times 2 to the 0 power. I have to do my exponent first. So I have to do what 2 to the 0 power is. Any number to the 0 power, if you remember, is 1. Any positive number to the 0 power is 1. But you could check it in your calculator. Remember, you could do 2 and then that caret 0. That should get you 1 as well. But any number to the 0 power is 1. So that's going to be 1, and then I just have to multiply that by 3. So I have y equals 3 times 1, which means y equals 3. So then I'm going to go there and put my 3. Then I just keep going through and just plug in the other values for x. So I have y equals 3 times 2 to the first power. And I'm actually going to continue this, doing it to the second and to the third power as well. Oops. So then now here I'm going to have to the second power. And then one more time we'll do it to the third power, and we're actually going to solve all of these. Okay, let me fix this one here real quick. Okay, so we have the equation, we have it plugged in to, we already found to the 0 power, now we just have to the first, second, and third power. So we're doing 2 to the first, 2 to the first power, which is 2. So then we have y equals 3 times 2, so y must equal 6. So when x is 1, y equals 6, and we put the 6 there at the table. Then we could go ahead and continue going. So 2 to the second power, 2 to the second power is 2 times 2, which is 4. So we have 3 times 4. Y equals 3 times 4, so y must equal 12. And then the final one here, we do 2 to the third power. Remember, 2 to the third power is 2 times 2 times 2, not 2 times 3. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So 2 to the third power is 8. And we're just going to multiply that by 3. Y equals 3 times 8. Y equals 24. And then our table is complete there. Another thing we could have done, which is actually might seem a bit easier, is from once we get our first value, our 0, when x is 0, so we got 3. From there, we could just multiply by 2. So 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. And 12 times 2 is 24. So that's something else you could have done too, is once the first value was, once you got the first value, basically, you could multiply by that 2 there. But you don't have to. Once we create that table, we're going to be asked to graph it. You don't have to write this on your slide, but let me just show you how to do it because you're going to be asked to do it on the next couple slides. So I'm just going to go ahead and create my graph. I keep it in mainly the first quadrant because all of my values are positive. So just make sure you label your axes. So this is my x-axis, this is my y-axis, and then this is a really small like table sample, so I'm going to go ahead and just keep this small. This is 0, this is 1, 2, 3. If we wanted to continue, it'd be 4, 5, blah, blah, blah. And then going up, let's go to 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Let's count by 5s going up. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And it's okay that none of these values are necessarily these, but as long as my table can like go in the graph, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go ahead and start plotting these. So the first one is 0, 3. Remember, these are all x, y points. So you could turn all of these into points. 2, 12, 3, 24. And let's start with the first one. So going over 0 up 3 should be right about here. And let me label. Okay, again, you don't have to do this exact graph, but on the next couple slides, you're going to be asked to graph the table that you create. The next one, we're going to go over 1 up 6. It's be right about here, 1, 6. It's okay if it's a little off as long as you label your point. Over 2 up 12 will be right about here. And over 3 up 24 will be right about there. Over 3 up 24. And this pattern continues, even though we stopped at 3. It doesn't mean the graph stops. So we're going to make sure we draw an arrow at the end to show that this graph continues. Final step is you have to label your intercepts. So my y-intercept is where my graph crosses the y-axis. So if I'm looking at my y-axis here, my graph touches this y-axis. Bam, right there at that point, 0, 3. So my y-intercept is going to be 0, 3. And remember, for your y-intercept, the x value is always 0, so that makes sense. Now my x-intercept is going to be where the graph touches the x-axis. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight my x-axis in blue. This is my x-axis here. Beep, 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 beep. And my graph never touches this blue axis. So I'm going to go ahead and say that there is no x-intercept, or none. And then final step is to say whether your graph is increasing or decreasing. This basically is saying, are your y values getting bigger or smaller? They are getting bigger, so this graph is increasing. The graph is increasing. Okay.